Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite books that feature pirates, are set on the water, and are just filled with action in preparation for the Swashbuckler Readathon. Alright guys, so this is actually an announcement / rec video for the Swashbuckler Readathon. So this readathon is put together by Hannah from the channel Hannah Blackwell, and I will be a co-host along with Bae from Mama Needs to Read Romance, Tiff from Tiff Talks Pages, and April from Happily Ever April. So I am so excited to be participating and one of the co-hosts for this readathon. It is going from July 5th to July 12th. So it's a bit of a shorter readathon, not a huge commitment, but it should be really fun. So there are a decent amount of prompts. I will definitely leave Hannah Blackwell's video tag down in the description because she's probably going to go a little bit more in depth into all of the different prompts. But you essentially have to read a book that features a pirate, a book that is set on the water, a book that is filled with action, also a romance, and then eating a pirate snack. So you can get super creative with it if you want to. So the way I'm going to do this video is I broke it down into different types of pirate romance and then also just books that are set on the sea and have a lot of action. So we're going to be talking about YA fantasy, adult fantasy romance. I also even have a few thrillers in there, and then monster romance. So if you're looking for a specific genre, definitely utilize those timestamps down below. And if you are unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Patreon, and Goodreads, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these pirate books. So starting off with YA fantasy, I have 4 books. 2 of the books I have read this series, and then the other 2 I haven't picked up yet, but I know they fit the prompts. So first up, we have Fable by Adrienne Young. I read this book when I first started BookTube, and I loved it. The writing is so atmospheric. You literally feel like you are sailing on the high seas, and it is one of the best pirate fantasy romances I've ever read, especially the fact that it's young adult. It honestly just deals with so much, but it's still very fun, and it's such an enjoyable read. Now, if you have not read Fable, we're following this girl whose father is this revered pirate. Now, he ends up leaving his daughter on this island that is filled with criminals and convicts, and is essentially like, if you can survive long enough to get off this island and find me, you can join my crew. So our main character is able to do this, and along the way, she meets all of these different characters, and there's a bit of a treasure hunt, and it was just such an enjoyable read. Now, after Fable, there's Namesake, that's a duology, and then there's Saint, which is actually a prequel book to Fable, and it follows Fable's father. So highly recommend, one of my absolute favorite YA series. Now, another YA series is All the Stars and Teeth. It's been even longer since I've read this series. I haven't really picked up a lot of YA fantasy this year, but I remember loving All the Stars and Teeth. From what I remember, we're following this girl that lives on this island where all these different people have different types of magic. And it turns out she ends up somehow messing up a ritual, and her entire island now wants to kill her. So she ends up escaping the island and has to go to these different islands to try to, I think, either fix her magic or prove her magic isn't dangerous. And while doing so, she ends up getting picked up by this guy who has a magical pirate ship, and it's their story. Now, I will say I did not read the second book in this duology just because it's been so long since I read the first, but I loved that first book, and it definitely fits a lot of the prompts. And the 2 YA fantasy books that I have not picked up yet, however, I've heard amazing things, are Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. Now, I've had so many subscribers tell me I need to pick this book up. However, Tricia Levenseller has been so hit or miss with me, but I still want to read it. This might be one of the books I read during the readathon, but this is following a, I believe, 17-year-old girl who is the captain of this pirate ship, and she ends up actually allowing herself to be captured in order to try to hunt down, I think, some sort of treasure or a map. And then she ends up having some sort of relationship with one of the crew on board the ship where she was captured. So it sounds really good. Like I said, I've had many people tell me they've really enjoyed the story. And then the other one is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. And I will say, I actually sold my copy of my Fairy Loot edition of this book, but it is stunning. It is such a gorgeous cover, but I believe this book is based on some sort of folk tale, and it definitely takes place in the water, judging by the cover. So this book has amazing reviews on Goodreads, so I highly recommend checking it out. So moving into adult fantasy romance, I definitely have the most for this category. Now, I want to start off with From Tormented Tides, and that is because this book, according to Goodreads, is young adult, But I remember this being like, why choose? So I don't think it's young adult, but I could be mistaken. But anyway, I actually have a vlog of me reading this book. It's a full pirate vlog that has even more pirate recommendations that I'll leave in the cards and in the description. But From Tormented Tides is following this girl. From what I remember, she's like terrified of the ocean, but she still allows her friends that are like relatively new friends to take her on a boat to this island that has like a really bad current. But anyway, she ends up being swept away, but before dying, she's found by what appears to be a pirate, but it's also Halloween, so she assumes it's this guy that's dressed up, only to then discover it's actually the ghost of a pirate, and there's just these pirates that are haunting this island, and two of them end up taking an interest in our main character. And the story goes from there. So I will say, I ended up rating this, I think 2.75, 3 stars. I wasn't a huge fan of it. However, I know a lot of people really enjoyed this book, so I wanted to include it on this list. Now, another one that I've recently read, I'm actually not finished at the time of filming this. I still have 7 chapters left. You're going to hear that in 2 videos because I just filmed my mid-year freakout tag and I talk about this book. But anyway, I'm loving this book so much. It is The Last Lost Girl, and I'm trying to fit it into as many like rec videos as I can because I want more people to read it. But this is a dark Peter Pan reimagining, and we're following this girl whose adopted sister, who's always taking care of her, seems to have some things going on kind of mentally, but also she has these weird like powers that allow her to control people. Anyway, she's obsessed with Peter Pan, and she keeps talking about the Peter Pan story and stealing copies of the Peter Pan story whenever she can. And eventually one day our main character comes home and the sister says, hey, we need to go to Neverland, or I need to go to Neverland, you need to stay here. Our main character is like, nope, I'm going with you. Together, they end up going to Neverland and then are separated. This is when our main character realizes that Peter Pan, super evil, like as evil as they come. So she ends up being saved by Hook, and it's their story. And it's really our main character trying to get off of Neverland. But it has so many nods to the original like Peter Pan story. And also a lot of this takes place on Hook's boat. So it definitely has water, action, adventure, and pirates. And please read this. It is just such a fun, dark story that I feel like not enough people are talking about. And then another book. Just keeping on with the pirates, we have A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halle. I'm sure many of you already know this. I have not finished reading this book because I am waiting for the audiobook to release. The audiobook is actually releasing in July. I actually think it's releasing on the last day of the readathon, but I might be able to like binge it and get that in for my last read of the readathon. But this is a Little Mermaid reimagining where we're following our Little Mermaid character who's actually a siren who ends up making a deal with this sea witch in order to become a human because she's fallen in love with this guy named Eric, like from afar. So the sea witch ends up cutting out her tongue and she becomes human, only to find out that Eric is actually a horrible human being and super abusive, and she immediately regrets her decision. So then now we fast forward and she's in this horrible marriage and she's on a ship, and that ship ends up being taken over by pirates. And that is where I stopped reading. So that is all I really know, but I know April from Happily Ever April loves this book, so I am so excited to get to it. And then last up is actually my Patreon book club pick for June. However, I'm hoping to pick up the sequel during this readathon, The Ever Queen. But The Ever King, I've talked about this book in a lot of videos. I love this. I think I gave it 4.75, 5 stars. But this is a fantasy romance, and we're following this girl whose father ended up putting Eric, the King of the Ever, and trapping him in the Ever, which is like this underwater prison. And our main character ends up accidentally setting him free. So Eric ends up capturing our main character and wants to use her as a hostage to get revenge on her father. And it's their romance. And I love Eric so much. Like so much. He reminds me so much of Aaron Warner from Shatter Me. And this was such a fun read. So I will definitely be picking up the audio for The Ever Queen during the readathon. And moving into dark romance, unfortunately, there's only one dark romance book I read that features pirates, and that is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. However, this book is phenomenal. It is my favorite historical romance. It's so incredibly good. Just check trigger warnings. But this is following Bennett. And at the start of our story, Bennett is the daughter of a pirate and then this lady of society. And she's being raised by her mother. And through some very upsetting circumstances, she becomes an orphan. So she ends up picking up her father's mantle and becomes a pirate herself. So then we fast forward, and our main character, Bennett, is fleeing from her husband, who also happens to be a pirate. We're not exactly sure why she's running from him, but while running from him, she ends up being captured by the pirate hunter Ashley, and it goes from there. And it's so good. So, like I said, I love this book. But if you are a fan of dark romance and you know a dark romance that is either set on the water or features pirates, please let me know down in the description below, because I really want to add one to my TBR for this readathon, and I just don't know about very many. But yeah, I love this book. And last up is Monster Romance. Now, despite the shirt I'm wearing, I'm actually fairly new at Monster Romance, and I am kicking myself that I did not get this first book while I was at a Polycon signed by the author, because she was there and I had the opportunity and I didn't know there was going to be an audiobook available. But anyway, it is Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm. So the audiobook for this is releasing at the end of June, so I will definitely be reading this as part of the Swashbuckler Readathon. But I believe this is following a girl that lives in this like underwater city. However, there are also sirens or merfolk that are already living there that do not want these humans going into their territory. And I'm assuming there's going to be a romance between our main character and one of them. Now, I have seen fan art for this and it looks so good. So it's one of the books I am most excited to pick up during the Swashbuckler Readathon. Now, the other book is To Ravish a Rogue. I'm hoping to get to this actually before the readathon. And this is a monster romance by Sam Nacosta. Apparently we're following this girl that is trying to get home to her sister, and she ends up getting kidnapped by a pirate, only for the pirate to find out some very interesting things about our main character. So I talked to Hannah about this book. She was my only friend that I know that read this, and she was telling me a little bit about it, and it made me so excited to pick this up. So I will definitely be reading this, probably, like I said, before the readathon, but it should be really good. So if you read this, let me know what you think. I'm very curious. Alright guys, that is it for my Swashbuckler Rex. Please let me know if there are any other pirate romances that you really enjoy. I love getting recommendations from you guys. And also make sure to follow all of the other co-hosts. I will have them all tagged down in the description below. They should be coming out with either rec videos or announcement videos, so definitely make sure to check those out. I will also have all of the templates available on my Instagram when this video ends up posting. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Erin, Leslie, and Kat. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.